Hello guys and welcome to this video. For this video we'll be looking for the database class and how interaction with our database. So first let's go to our database.php file and let's start with creating our DB class that will be used for connecting to the database and executing SQL queries. So we need to create a class named DB. Yes, like that, and we will use like every time. In our course we will need to define the namespace that will be the app_core. Okay, and in our database we will need to create a function that will execute our queries. So for that we make a function. It will be public static function, and his name will be query. This query will take two arguments. The first argument will be the query and the next one will be the date. For that, in this SQL query we will need like we say first, before starting with the code, I will explain why we need those parameters. Because query, which will be a SQL query string, and the data, which is an array of parameters to bind to the query. Now with the PDO, we need the first thing is connecting our PHP app with the database. So we will add a connect method to separate functions. So before that we will need a private function, a private static function. It will be named connect, to connect for our database. And let me remove this copilot extension, disable. Yeah, this will be fine. And so after we define the connect method, this method must be private to be accessible. Only then it is called within the database class. This method will be responsible for creating a new PDO object and storing it in a PDO property. We create a private static PDO that we will store in our PDO connection. And to start connecting to our database, to do that we will create inside the connect function, we will create okay, like I said, to create a PDO object class that serves the connecting for PHP and with MySQL, and inside, okay, we will assign to the PDO, and it will equal to a new PDO object. Okay, and there is an error, we must add a backslash here, and inside there is 3 arguments. The first one will store in the first parameter we will store in a variable. Let's call it string because it will be long a little. It's called string, and inside the string we will do a DB connection. We will define our DB connection, and next we will need to define our host, and it will be equal to our DB host, and our port that we work with, port equal DB port, and also our DB name. And all of those DB connection, this is defined constants that we already did define in the config.database file. like you say, if you remember. And inside we will pass the string. Also we need to pass db user and the db password. Like that we successfully connect the data with the database. And next we need to return to our query function method, and now call the connect method to establish the connection. So we will call the db method, we'll do something like that, connect. We connect to our database and store it in the PDO. Okay, now we will go to the statement. Now after we connect, we need to create a new PDO statement object by okay, let me explain more. We need to create a new PDO statement that we will store in the statement variable. We will call the self PDO to get the current PDO object. And next we will use the prepare predefined function. We will use prepare to prepare our query to compile our SQL query and return a PDO statement object that we can use to execute the query. So we will pass the query here that we already passed in the arguments, and we will execute this statement. We execute this statement with passing the data array to bind the parameter to the query. This method executes the SQL query, a boolean value indicating whether the query was successful or not. But we don't need to check, we will just return this value. And before return this statement, we will first make sure that to close our PDO connection. And to do that, we will set in the PDO property to null. Okay, next we will return the statement. That's it for our database code. We have created a class that can only connect to a database and execute SQL queries. Now let's test the code to make sure that it's working properly. We will start by going to the bottom of our current file, and we will make sure that everything works properly. So before that we will go to okay, how to say, okay, first let's go to our PHP MyAdmin. Let's go to our PHP MyAdmin and go to our database. After we go to our database, we need to create a new table. And insert some dummy data to test our application. So for that, let's open. If you don't know how to open this example, you can simply open this exam control panel and click on admin. This page will be open automatically, and then we go to the SQL queries and we create a SQL query to create user tables and insert some dummy data that to have a data to test our application or our DB class that can get some data or anything you want. So first let's create a table, name users. Okay, inside we need to files, the ID and the name. We can make it a varchar 45 for example. Now okay, let's create the table. Now our table is created. Let's insert some dummy data. Insert users values. We'll insert two values. The first one, it should be my name, and the second one, we can set the name as user, for example. And let's execute and check our database. Let's go to our database and go to the users table that are already created, and here we can see that we have the values. So to select these values, we can run a SQL query like is SQL select all from users, and that will return all the database. And if we want to select the first user that have ID equal 1, we'll go something equal to ID like this, and the order result will be the first line that have ID equal to 1. So, and like you say, the result is Usama. So now let's go back to our code editor and try to have the same result. So we will put the same query here. We make the query equal to select all from users to have all the data, and then we will call the db query and we will pass this query. Okay, this must be returned. Oh, this is an error. I'll excited. We must here, if we have no data, we must define that the data to be an empty array. So like that everything is okay, and let's go back to our browser. Let's open our project localhost /LMS Learning Management System MVC, and let's go to the public folder, and that's it. What they say, invalid catalog name, no database selected, as the dogs database line 20. In the line 20, okay, execute, okay. Okay, I think the error is inside our connect method, and yeah, it is there. It must be a semicolon. Let's go back, and yeah, the error is gone, and we need to parent this result of this query. We'll make a parent error like that, and let's go back, and the query is not even executed yet. Okay, return statement that execute data. Okay, now after seeing that our query looks fine, we need to add a fetch method here for our database. We need a fetch with the PDO fetch associate. Yes. Okay, for this method call in PHP is used to fetch all the rows that we have. No, I don't need fetch, but fetch all to get all the rows that we have in database. And for the PHP fetch assoc, constraint used is as an argument method to specify the fetch size, and in this case it will be something that indicates that the fetch method should return the row as an array, all the rows in one array. If you go back and we check now our results, if you want to look more nice, we need to add echo array, and yes, this is all our database. This is the first array and this is the second. The first is that have name Usama, and the second that have user. So now let's execute our second that we need to pass the data. So if you, for example, want to pass the data, we can add where a condition with id equal to id, and in data, okay, let's say that it's a user id, because here you can set any name you want, but in condition in the data, you will assign to, you will make this name as the key of the array that you want in data, and let's say 1. And here, like we say in SQL, that's equal to 1, but here we use the fetch data. Here we use a secures bind element to our query. So we need to make sure that define that we have an variable. This means for the user id this is a variable, and here we specify that user id is equal to 1. So now if, for example, I pass the data to, and I go back to our browser, here, like you say, it comes just with first value, and that is what we wanted, and it was like we executed in SQL. So it will be, that's all for this video. Our session for the database class is in, and I hope everything was good and fine. If you don't understand or you have any comments, leave them below, and see you in the next video.